Hey everybody, this is Robert People of RobertPeople.com, and you're listening to People's Court. Thanks as always for joining me. Today is Thursday, December 13th, 2018, and I'm going to talk today about Donald Trump and his constant threats to shut down the government if he does not get his $5 billion for this border wall. Of course, we know separating us from Mexico. Now, there's a lot of places I can go with this. But the first question I have, and probably the only thing I really need to ask, is what happened to Mexico paying for this wall? We remember a while back, don't know precisely when he said this, but he's repeated it over the past 2 years, or whatever time period since it was first mentioned, that Mexico was going to pay for this wall. We weren't sure how exactly was going to happen, but that's what he said. I remember something to the tune of something to the effect, Mexico is going to pay for the wall, trust me, or believe me, or bite me, or do something to whatever it was he said. That's what came out of his mouth. He said Mexico was going to do it. And he's repeated it over this time. And it recently came up again as far as this NAFTA agreement. He said Mexico is going to pay for the wall one way or the other through this NAFTA agreement that they, I believe, recently... that was recently done. Now, it seems simple, and sometimes I feel like I'm missing something really obvious. But if Mexico is paying for this wall, if he's so certain, at least that's what he's putting out to people, that Mexico is paying for this wall, why are we even talking about a government shutdown? For starters, the government is not a light switch, okay? The government is not some light switch that you just flip on and off whenever you just don't get your way. Now, recently, Trump spoke to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. And the idea, the purpose for this talk, the media was there for it as well. The purpose of this talk was to come to an agreement on this border wall, and Trump wanted his $5 billion, and it needed approval from primarily Democrats. And they told him under no uncertain terms, it's not going to happen. This, of course, turned into a basically broken record from Trump. Trump sounded like a broken record, rather, that we need the wall, we need border security, so on and so forth. Now, again, as many people have been running around talking about, many Trump supporters, Democrats apparently, what you all are saying at least, those who support Trump still for who God knows what reason, are saying that liberals and Democrats want open borders. We support open borders. We don't care who comes in this country. Now, I have yet to find one single person who said that. I have yet to know of anybody who's okay with our borders just being wide open. I don't believe anybody is okay with that. But somehow it makes the conversation sound better. It makes the debate sound a whole lot more juicy, a whole lot juicier if you say, well, you guys, since you don't want to do it the way I want, you guys must want it this way. In other words, Trump is saying, I want to do this wall. I want to put everything aside, just put this wall up. And I want $5 billion to do it also. Now, I don't know what his plans were before when it wasn't Mexico, going to do this thing. But whatever his plans were before, whenever Democrats or whoever he wants to blame today tell him that we're not going to do this, that's what comes out. Oh, so you don't care about, borders. You're fine with drug dealers and everybody and all this and that coming in. And again, I come back to the same question. If Mexico was paying for this wall, why are we talking about shutting the government down? Along the millions of other things that have come out of Trump's mouth that he's clearly uninformed about, he's clearly ignorant about, as far as what his job is as president, shutting the government down because you don't get your way, That's not one of them. That's not something that's your job. And he's done it. He's said this more than once. Now, the sad part, the embarrassing part about this whole thing is the fact that either he doesn't get this or he doesn't care. But all kinds, and for those of you, let me stop first. Let me come back. For those of you who don't understand exactly how a government shutdown works, I'm retired military, so let me explain to you. I know exactly how it goes for the most part. What happens is if Congress doesn't come up with a budget plan by a certain time period, the government essentially shuts down. And that means that a lot of the major activities by the government will not take place until they come up with a plan. I'm condensing exactly what it is. I know it's a whole lot more than that, but I'm giving you just a basic rundown of what happens. But how it affects people, how it affects government workers, federal employees, the military essentially does not get paid. The military does not get paid while this shutdown is going on. Now, the good thing about that is that they get back pay. Understand that. But however, we don't know how long the shutdown is usually. It's not pre-done as far as, if it shuts down, it's going to be a week. It's going to be a couple days. No, we don't know. It's just up in the air and we're kind of just sitting here waiting. The last time it's affected me, I can't remember. It's happened twice since I've been in. One time it was a week. The other time it wasn't as long, but what this means for government workers who are not in the military, that's called a furlough, I believe. And they don't report. They simply do not get paid. I don't believe there's back pay, so they just don't show up to work. So essentially, let's make sure we have this correct. Let's make sure we have this right. Donald Trump originally said, and several times since then have said, that Mexico is going to pay for this wall. And now we've reached the point, we've gotten from that point to now, where he's talking about shutting the government down if he doesn't get his $5 billion. $5 billion where he shuts the government down. Now, we're talking about, has anybody forgotten, by the way? Has he forgotten what holiday is just around the corner, just down the street, just less than 2 weeks away? Have we forgotten this? And we're talking about shutting the government down, causing people to not get paid. And what's the reason again? Not because we can't come up with a budget plan, which by now we should be far past this threat of a government shutdown seemingly every year, every other year that I've noticed. But this is what's going on. This is where we are. We're okay with people not getting paid around Christmas time. Christmas, and for what? Because you're not getting $5 billion for a wall? And what I found, like everything else that he says, what I found so interesting is that when he described, he gave a whole lot of just vague information as far as the areas that there's some sort of wall built up or some type of border along the south. I believe San Diego had some. I want to say, San Diego, let's say San Diego, Arizona, and some areas of Texas as well. He gave statistics on how much traffic has stopped, something like 90% over here, 95 this, 95 that. So, okay, got it. He gave all these numbers. Now, nothing was factual. And Nancy Pelosi pointed that out to him. Nancy Pelosi said, we have to do this. This has to be evidence-based, not just use, rambling off some numbers and saying, hey, we need a border wall because of all this. And at one point, I even found it interesting that he mentioned another country. I believe it was Israel. I don't have the video in front of me right now, but I think it was Israel where he mentioned the wall there. And he gave a very, very commercial response. He said the wall is 99.9% effective. 99.9%. Now, where else have you heard that? Commercials, right? The new mouthwash kills 99.9% of germs. Oh, the new hand sanitizer. The new, the soap, the hand soap, whatever it is. The liquid soap, oh, it's 99.9% of germs. The Clorox wipes or whatever, 99.9% of everything. So now all of a sudden, this wall that Israel has, again, or whatever country he's talking about, 99.9% effective. Now, how does that happen? How is something 99.9% effective? It doesn't make sense. He threw that out there, I think, just because he wanted to sound like something, or he wants to cater to his base. Because when it comes to this, there's going to be one solid number that comes up. One solid number. It was this way before, and after the wall got put up, now it's this way. There is no 99.9%. It either stops it a little bit, stops it a whole lot, doesn't stop it at all. But 99.9%, that's a commercial trick anyway. Everybody knows they say 99.9% because they can't say 100%. They can't say 100% because if any germs are left whatsoever, people can say, oh, that's false advertising. So 99.9% keeps them clear. But anyway, we're shutting down the government for what? For what reason are we doing this? Why are we threatening? And let me clarify. It's not happening, but he's threatening to do it. So, same question. Why is it happening? Why do we need to shut anything down? Why do we need to do that? Now, I'll tell you, as I wrap this up, I'll tell you exactly what I feel. We're in such a messed up place in this country, and that is grossly understating it. And we've gone from him saying Mexico is going to pay for this wall, believe me, right? We all remember that. And it hasn't happened yet. Mexico pretty much laughed in our faces, I think, when they saw that or heard it or what have you. We've gone from that to this. Now, it doesn't take, and I'm not revealing something genius here. I think anybody with half a brain can get this themselves. Any average Joe can see exactly what I'm talking about and understand this without me having to say it. But Trump didn't get his way with Mexico. He's not getting his way with this $5 billion wall. Or this $5 billion to do this wall. So, of course, the shutting of the government is, to me, what I feel it's essentially holding the government hostage. Holding the government hostage, holding federal workers hostage, holding the military hostage until he gets his way. Because, of course, if it doesn't happen, all his supporters and everybody else who's still clinging to him, as he takes them smooth off the cliff, they can say, oh my goodness, the government's going to be shut down. And rather than critically thinking, using their own heads and saying, wait a minute, do we need to do this? Is Trump a little out of line here? No, they want to stay supporting Trump as much as possible. This allegiance is just, this cult-like allegiance to him is just sickening in a lot of ways. So if he does something drastic enough, people are still going to feel like, oh my goodness. Like it could be something as ridiculous. And at this day and age, it would not surprise me. Trump could say, if I don't get my border wall, I'm going to set the White House on fire. And rather than his cultists saying, you know what, yeah, Trump, I love you, but come on, this is a little extreme. They're going to say, see, Democrats, see what you're doing? You're going to cause the White House to come up in flames. Donald Trump has no choice but to set the White House on fire thanks to you all. Right? That's where we are now. So he chooses something that has nothing to do with anything. There's no reason the government needs to be shut down. But he's going to do that so that the Democrats to put pressure on them to say, oh, wait a minute. Man, you're going to shut the government down if we don't give you $5 billion? Well, now the pressure's on us, right? The pressure's on Democrats to sit there and say, well, man, maybe we need to do it. The good news is Schumer and Pelosi are way too smart for that. And they're not budging one bit. And they shouldn't. They shouldn't. There's a lot we need to do, but guess what? Shutting down the government is not the way to make it happen. That's selfish, and again, you're holding the government hostage doing it that way. and hurting a whole lot of people that's not just Democrats. Thank you for listening, Robert People. Follow me at robertpeople.com.